Oh, welcome everyone. Welcome to our weekly Bringing Calm to COVID virtual gathering. My name is Vanessa Loader, and I'm so excited to be here with all of you today to bring some structure to the chaos. So that's the intention behind today's gathering. And before we dive into some of the content, I'd love to just hear from a few of you. How are you doing? How are you feeling? What are you struggling with today or this week? You can either type in the chat or you can unmute yourselves to share. So what's going on in your world and how are things? Besides completely unprecedented and crazy and intense. Okay, so Tanya said, feeling a lot of anxiety. I'm reading that as a feeling a lot of, since you put it all in caps. Yes, you're not alone in that, Tanya. And I'd be curious, Tanya, if there's, in terms of your anxiety, is it focused on a certain particular worry that keeps cycling in your mind? Or is it a general anxiety and sense of unrest?
I can go audio, right?
Hello.
Is it okay for me to talk versus chat? Okay. I think a lot of it is just juggling everything in life where we, don't have that order or routine that we used to have. I'm parenting a teenager, so there's the homeschooling bit, and there's the working from home, and the technology is just not as up to par. And then there's the limitations of social and being able to go out. And this is something that everyone's facing. And there were already stressors before this came into our lives. And now I feel like the stress level has been upped and increased by like 10 times fold. So It's just learning, I think, how to just have different expectations and letting go a lot more, right? Mm-hmm. And just saying, this is okay. Like, it's okay if I've got dishes in my sink right now that I haven't washed for 2 days. It's okay.
Yeah, just giving yourself permission and letting it be okay to have a messy house. That's like the least of our concerns right now, right?
Right.
Yeah. Thank you. I hear you. Thank you for sharing, between the technology and working from home. And for many people have two adults working from home, and who's working in what room, and how are you going to navigate like the physical space even, and how to do all that. Then the technology, not being able to connect face to face with people from work. And then if you have children and homeschooling. So it's such an unprecedented time where we're all navigating so much change and such a lack of stability. And I think actually there's a lot of beauty and power in the challenges that we're all facing, because it's shaking everything up, and we have to find a new way of being. And it's really, it's challenging us in terms of our resilience and our ability to manage the unknown in a way that I don't know that we've ever faced collectively at this scale in many of our lifetimes. So yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. Who else wants to share how you're doing today, how you're doing this week, what you're struggling with? You can unmute yourself and just share, or you can type in the chat. And I see Sylvie said, back to homeschooling this week. What a stress. Yeah. And for those of you who are homeschooling, Dr. Shefali Tsabari, who was our guest last week, I highly recommend you watch the recording if you haven't already. She's written several books on parenting. She's been on Oprah. She's a parenting expert. She wrote a book called The Conscious Parent, and another one recently called The Awakened Family. And she went on a bit of a tangent that I loved, where she said homeschooling is like basically BS. She said she's been writing to her children's superintendents and teachers and saying, we need to be focused on our children's emotional well-being, rather than putting all this pressure on parents to suddenly become teachers and putting pressure on kids to do all this work from home. That shouldn't matter right now. What we need to focus on is making sure that our children feel safe and that they have the emotional support that they need. So it was helpful for me to hear that too, because I'm trying to homeschool, and I was like, okay, I'm going to give my daughter, like, you don't have to do any of your work today. Or my daughter was supposed to write a story, and she was having a hard time sitting down and writing it, and she was having emotional meltdowns. And I realized that morning with her Legos and her little brother, she'd made up a whole story, and she had this whole and I was like, you know what? I actually think you did your schoolwork, because I saw you make up that story. Why don't you tell me about that story you did with your Legos? And so I've just been finding creative ways and not it, but it's challenging me as a perfectionist rule follower because I want to like make sure I'm being a good mom and having my kids do their work. So one of the things I've noticed in myself and some other parents is that it's like I'm projecting my need for stability onto my children. And then I'm saying, okay, I'm going to force you to do your homeschool stuff and create this structure, even though it's really damaging mentally and emotionally to both of us, so that I can have a sense of like structure and safety and support during this time. So I don't know, that may or may not be true for others, but you can sit with some of that. It's been challenging me to let go of what I think I should do and trusting my own mother's intuition with what's right to support my child. Okay, what else do we have? Who else? Vanessa said she's feeling re-energized after a brief walk in nature. Lovely, thank you. Kimberly said feeling anxiety. Yes, Lisa said she loved Dr. Shefali's talk. And you got your family around you for the next 30 minutes, but so you can share live afterwards. But you're able to give yourself permission to put a lot of balls down and relax expectations and everything softened. Ah, beautiful, Lisa. Anyone else want to share? What are you struggling with? What's going on for you today and this week? Yeah, so Sek said feeling addled and can't focus. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, I think one of the things many of us are experiencing is because our normal routines have been completely, not just interrupted, but basically disintegrated, right? Like both working and children, everything is just gone and totally different. There's no stability. And so we're kind of like this, just feeling, you know, and it can be really hard to focus when you're sort of just like responding and reacting to these extreme circumstances. So the reason why we wanted to do today's session to offer some structure amidst the chaos is because I'd heard from a lot of people, particularly in the first part of this week, that now that they've been working from home for a few weeks or they've been homeschooling for a week or two, there was this sense of, okay, the dust is settling a little bit, not a lot, but just a little bit. And this is the new, not normal, but this is the new reality that I find myself in. And yet I don't have any focus or structure. I'm still feeling really kind of helter-skelter. So what can I do about that? So today, we're going to be taking you through this wonderful tool called the Weekly Planning Guide. And it's from this Soul Planner. And I'll be introducing my collaborator, Suzanne, in just a couple minutes. And we created this together, but it's one of my most popular tools. It's a weekly planning process with several steps to help you set yourself up for a successful week. And, you know, in the midst of COVID and all of the uncertainty and instability, it can be really helpful to have like a structure to sort of hang your hat on and to have something to help you focus and feel a little more relaxed and clear about how you're gonna have your day and week go. Okay, a couple other people have shared. I just wanna check in with the comments. Yeah, so Suzanne's feeling sad as she learns of several people whose parents have succumbed to COVID. So we are also in a moment of grieving as individuals and as a world, and that's a big deal. Linda also shared occasional anxiety and feeling some anger at the way public health crisis is being mishandled and fear about the possibly dreadful outcomes. Yeah, so anxiety, anger, and fear. Thank you for sharing, Linda. I know you're not alone with that. Darlene also feels sad, angry, and afraid that my job is not fixing an obvious injustice. Yeah, I'm just sending so much love to everyone. Thank you for sharing. And Michelle said, exhausted by the constant triage of what to prioritize and what to let go. There's so much going on and so much is different between work and kids being home. Yeah. So the one thing I do want to say, and I think you probably all sort of know this, but for me, I can't do it enough. COVID should be the biggest hall pass of your life. You know, like last week we talked a little bit about writing yourself a permission slip. What I've been thinking about recently is This is a hall pass. This is not even just a permission slip. Like, you're not going on one field trip. This is like, you get a hall pass until this crisis is over. And so the more that you can remember to give yourself a hall pass in life right now, the better, the more it just, like Lisa said, it softens things a little bit. So whether that's, I'm just gonna get takeout every night, or I'm like someone said, I'm gonna leave dirty dishes in the sink. I have days where I'm getting 1 or 2 hours of work done, and that's it. And I'm going, good job, Vanessa. That was a really successful day. You did 2 hours of work. Okay. So I have 2 small kids. My mom just transitioned to the non-physical. I'm in the middle of COVID. I mean, I'm giving myself a huge hall pass. I invite you to give yourself the most generous hall pass that you've ever given yourself in your entire life. Because have you ever been in more stressful, uncertain, anxious times in your entire life? I mean, maybe a couple of you if you've come from some sort like a war-torn country, but the majority of the population, this is probably one of the most uncertain, unknown, stressful times you've ever experienced. So a couple of things I've realized: when you're in a challenging circumstance, then you want that hall pass or that permission slip to increase to match the difficulty that you're in. And you also want your self-care and your self-compassion to increase to match the difficulty that you're in. So if this was like your normal life and your normal stress level, and COVID is not even on my computer screen, it's actually, I'm looking at the rafters in the ceiling. That's like the challenging circumstances that you're in. So imagine, how can you increase the level of self-compassion and self-care by like a bazillion fold to match the increase you're feeling in anxiety and sadness and fear. So just being really gentle with yourselves as much as you can right now. And we'll do some practices to support you in that. Okay, looking at some other comments. Yeah, Darlene said, I'm noticing I'm beating myself up, and I experienced this in my childhood and noticed I beat myself up, and I'm still creating this experience. Yeah, if you're beating yourself up or being hard on yourself, I have found that self-compassion is one of the best tools to support you in shifting that. And in the beginning, especially when you find it hard to give yourself compassion, the quickest little self-compassion hack that I know of is what you do is you close your eyes. You know what, let's just all do this together right now, part of our COVID hall pass, self-care, self-compassion. So take a moment and close your eyes and just tune into your breath. Feeling the rise and fall of your chest or belly as you inhale and exhale. And just take a moment to tune into some of the difficulty and the pain that you're experiencing right now. And see if you can kind of hone in on a core complaint or a core pain point just for today. What's that one thing that you're having the hardest time with right now? See if you can summarize that for yourself in one sentence. And as you focus in on that difficulty that you're having, I'd like for you to think of a dear friend of yours and imagine that they were facing the same difficulty, that they had the same pain, same circumstances that you do. So call to mind a dear friend who might be struggling in a similar way as you, or imagine that they are. And then what I'd like for you to do in your own mind's eye is visualize or imagine or sense any way you can. How would you respond to that friend? What would you say to a friend of yours who is struggling in the same way that you are? What words of love or support or advice would you give them? And just imagine saying it to them now. And now what I'd like you to do is to offer those same words of compassion, wisdom, love, or support to yourself. Whatever you would say to a dear friend, take a moment and say those same words to yourself. And if it feels hard to receive that from yourself, you could imagine that dear friend giving you this advice or this wisdom. So take a moment and offer that same compassion to yourself. If you'd like, you can even put your hand on your heart as you say these kind words to yourself. Give yourself a hug, or even just a pat on the back to remind yourself you're doing such a good job. Any final words or compassion that you want to share with yourself, go ahead and do that now. And then as you're ready, coming back to your body, feeling the support of the floor or the chair beneath you, and allowing your eyes to gently open. I'd love to hear from a couple of you what that was like. What did you notice? I'll just share from my own experience. When I honed in on my biggest complaint or struggle right now, it was that I just want to let it all go. I want to let everything go and barely do anything. And I'm having a hard time doing that, just letting it all go and barely doing anything. And then when I imagined my best friend from home, with like imagining her mother had just died, she's in the middle of COVID, she's holding her family together. And it was so easy to tell her, are you kidding me? You're doing so much. I could so connect with how much she's doing and how if she'd let everything go, she actually was holding on to the most important thing, which is her family and her children. And I was able to give that same message to myself. And that really helped. So let's see who else wants to share. Oh, Sylvie said, tears are running down my face. Yeah, so this can be really powerful when you give yourself kind of some of that love and compassion that we all really need. And let's see, Quadwo said, refreshing. You have more clarity on what you need to do to better your situation and your mindset. Awesome. Thank you. Anyone else want to share what you noticed or experienced? Vanessa's going to allow herself more regenerating small naps. And I love what Lotus said, get out of jail free. Yes. We all get out of jail free right now, for sure. And Lisa, were you going to share something?
I was, Vanessa, I love your meditations. I always seem to get exactly what I need, but the emotion that came up was judgment about being unfocused. And it was like, there's a gift in that because it's allowing me to just put down all the stuff that doesn't matter and, you know, go and take a bottle of wine to my old neighbor down the street and get on the phone and hold presents for friends that are suffering, and just understand that I can trust my heart in terms of where I need to put my time in these uncertain times, and that I can just sort of let go of structure and routine and be loving and forgiving to myself. I've had some of the most beautiful conversations of reconnection this week because I decided to screw the work for a little while and just go out and onto my porch and talk across the street to neighbors, and it was beautiful. So thank you for helping me give myself more permission to, like, being unfocused on work is okay right now, and I can trust that I know where to be and who to talk to, and just to give myself that.
Oh, beautiful. I love it. Thank you for sharing. And how beautiful that you were able to, you know, go give your neighbor a bottle of wine, like feel these connections with other people in your community.
I have beautiful neighbors. I'm really blessed in that regard.
I love it. Well, and as you were sharing, Lisa, the thought that I had is maybe we should all also do a reframe on focus. Because what if, yes, we feel like we've lost focus in terms of our work or these things that our ego used to think really matters, but that's all been shattered. And what if COVID is actually forcing us to focus on the only things that really do matter, which is love and relationships. And, you know, there's so many stories I've heard of friends from high school who never get together doing a weekly Zoom happy hour. And like when I walk my streets in my neighborhood at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. last night with my kids, everyone was out walking, you know, well apart from each other in safety. But it feels like this return to an older time period when things were more simple. I almost feel sometimes like we're going back in time. And in some ways, we stopped by a neighbor's house as well to see if he needed anything. And yes, I'm getting less done, but what if I'm actually focusing on what really matters in life in a way that when I'm so busy and focused at work, I'm losing sight of. So I invite you all to just play around with, what does it even mean to focus? Like, are you focusing on things that are aligned with your values? Are you focusing on connection in a difficult time? And maybe you are plenty focused. It's just that you're not focusing in the same way or on the same things that you used to. And perhaps that's perfect. Who else wants to share?
Hi, Vanessa.
Yes, hello.
Yes, thank you so much. I loved it as usual. And again, it was a super synchronicity. As this morning, a friend contacted me, exactly as you said, kind of, she was in a challenging time. And another friend contacted me before and sent me something super funny. If you can find it, it's so funny. And so I told her what you taught her about feeling the emotion of being uncomfortable. And of course, it's frustrating to be close all in the house because she has smaller house than I have, and with the child and everything. And then I told her, I go back to my sense of humor because she has such a great sense of humor usually. And the synchronicity was, that was a friend that sent me on Facebook this video. If you can find it, it's a woman, I think she's Belgian, I'm not sure, called Christelle. And she has no swimming pool, so she put a blue plastic, you know, the stuff in the swimming pool, she put that on the floor. She put water, she put a mask, a swimming suit, and she pretend to be in the swimming pool, and she puts the Big Blue movie music on background, and she show all the swimming, you know. She's this is I don't know in English, but anyway, she's super funny. It's a short video. I don't know if you want to look.
Oh, thank you. I love it.
It was just perfect.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Well, it sounds like you're able to connect with some humor which is so important during these times. That's, you know, getting into humor, it immediately pops us up into a higher vibration. It's hard to feel anger, sadness, anxiety when you're in humor. So my sister and I have been sharing funny cat videos. That's been helping us, you know, whatever works. So thank you, Vanessa. And Linda, I love what you shared. You said, I told myself to stop trying to know everything, needed to fix the country or the world, to let go of the anger and frustration and fill myself with emptiness, fresh air, poetry, music, beauty, and nature. Oh, I just feel like lighter and happier reading those words, like letting go of the anger and frustration and filling with fresh air, poetry, and music. Yes, please. Thank you for sharing that. Deborah said, noticed becoming calmer, doing only 3 things every day, allowing this to be enough. Judgment about being unfocused and accepting that very little getting done is just enough. Yes. Thank you, Deborah. Such a great share. I do feel like it kind of reminds me of what Tara Brach talks about with the second arrow, where something unfortunate happens or difficult, and then what we do is we ruminate on it and we beat ourselves up like, oh, I shouldn't have said that, or I shouldn't have done that. She calls that the second arrow. You know, the first arrow is the event itself, and then the second arrow is the way that we judge ourselves or beat ourselves up afterwards. And often that second arrow is more painful than the first. And so the thought I'm having right now with everyone who's talking about the lack of focus is that I think our judgment about our lack of focus is probably worse in terms of the negative impact on us than the lack of focus itself. So just let that sink in for a minute. And maybe that's one of the reasons why we all need to give ourselves a really big hall pass, is because if we can just accept the lack of focus and not put pressure on ourselves to be like we were a couple months ago in terms of how we're spending our time or our days, I think we would all feel so much better. And then you're going to feel more resourced and you're actually going to end up being more focused. The more we beat ourselves up for being unfocused, the worse we feel and the less we can focus still. So yes, beautiful insights, Deborah. And Suzanne shared, it feels like we're remembering how to actually live, which is uncomfortable because it's so different, but I think it's being ingrained to what really matters. Yeah, so true, Suzanne. And such a good segue for me to introduce you. So I want to get started on our weekly planning process because I've been sitting a lot with what do I think are the most important teachings or tools, structures that I've come across. And at least for me, what I find most helpful is when I can find a way to blend what I'll call my soul, my higher self, my core values with taking action in the world and living in our modern society. You know, it's like, how can we be true to ourselves and who we are and what really matters to us, and yet I'm not going to go like meditate on a mountain for the next 20 years. I live in the modern world. I want to have goals and dreams and visions and find a way to execute on them, to go through my day feeling, you know, somewhat productive while also staying aligned to who I really am and what really matters. And so this tool, the Soul Planner, is designed to kind of blend those two worlds together to help you take action on the things that really matter for you. And I just want to give a little context. I'm going to introduce Suzanne Miller, the fabulous Suzanne Miller. So Suzanne, and I'll let her speak to this herself, but she took my Create Work You Love group coaching program for women several years ago. She worked in PR. I'm going to let you tell your story, but then she ended up going back to design school and creating these gorgeous designs. She designed the cover of this and all the inner pages. That's all her beautiful designs. And when she was kind of a client in my program, we both had this sense of, we're going to collaborate on something one day. And sure enough, within kind of a year or two later, we actually collaborated to create this Soul Planner. So it's her beautiful designs with my content and weekly planning process, which is based on the work of Scott Dinsmore from Live Your Legend. So I want to introduce Suzanne, and then we're going to take you all through the weekly planning process. So Suzanne, you want to say hello and share a little bit of your background?
Sure. Hello, everybody. I'm just reading through the comments, and I can so relate on so many of the points. And I think in the last 4 weeks, it was just so difficult to focus, and it was like my brain felt like it was goo, and like I didn't even feel like I could even pick up my soul plan, because I didn't know what was going to happen in the next 5 minutes. I was just in complete reaction mode. But it seems like we're in a little bit more of some kind of groove, because it's kind of been this way for a while. But just to give you a little bit of background about myself, so I was in the corporate world in financial PR, and kind of felt the need for a change, and synchronicity, I guess, brought me to Vanessa through a variety of different ways. And so I did her Create Work You Love, while at the same time I was doing this design school. And it helped me really stay focused and hone in on what really felt good, as opposed to what I should be doing, which I think I was always tending to do what as opposed to what I really wanted to do, but as opposed to what felt or looked right. One of the things, the tools we learned in the Create Work You Love was this weekly planning, and it was so much about intention. And I think that's what was missing from my to-do lists, was what was the true desired intention that really felt good to my creativity and to my day-to-day life. And so Vanessa gave us a printout, so I kept printing them out every week, and then they were kind of scattered all over the place. And, necessity is the mother of invention. And I said, we might need to actually do a planner, Vanessa. And so our planner was born. And what I love is, there's so many parts of this that I love, but I think it's giving yourself a break, but also celebrating yourself, because I think we tend to forget what all that we do actually do, and how we actually do accomplish a lot of things. And it's not about achievement, but it's about staying true to your values and honoring your values and celebrating that as well.
Yay! I love it. Thank you for sharing, Suzanne. And so these are all her gorgeous designs. And actually, she also just collaborated with another woman from our Create Work You Love to create face masks. I don't know if you want to put a link to them in the chat.
Yeah, sure.
But all the proceeds go to help. What the proceeds go to? Which, I forget which.
There's there's plenty of frontliners here that don't, even though these aren't medical grade, they don't have anything. So we're doing some here in the US, and then there's a South African charity that is an education charity for kids in rural areas that we're trying to get face masks to them.
Yay! And then if you also have the link for the Soul Planner on Amazon, my computer is doing some weird things right now.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we're going to take you through this, and we'll send out a PDF printout of the weekly planning guide with the recording for this, so you can have your own version of it. If you want to buy the annual planner, I highly recommend it, because then you have them all in one place. And this has not just the weekly planning, but it has monthly and quarterly and annual visioning and planning. So it's a really great tool that we all keep coming back to. And so several people had requested I take folks through that this week, as folks are starting to settle down a little bit and just want some structure in this chaos. All right, so we're going to go through it together as a group. I'm going to do each step in the weekly planning guide, and then we'll be sharing afterwards what that was like for you. So this is going to take longer. When you do it on your own, you can do it in as little as 20 or 30 minutes if you're kind of going quickly through it. And sometimes I want to be more spacious, and I'll take up to 40 minutes to do it. And I typically I used to do it sometimes on Sunday nights, but usually, frankly, I don't even get to it on Monday. Sometimes I don't do it until Tuesday for that week. And even if I don't get to it until Thursday, like today, it actually still really helps me. So let's get started with it. So the first step, and actually, since we're in April, I'm going to read the quote that Suzanne put in for April, because she has these beautiful quotes for each month, because I love that it's by Wayne Dyer for today, Suzanne.
Yeah.
The quote for April is, water is the softest of all things, yet it is the most powerful. The ocean patiently allows all things to flow into it. It is always flexible. The Tao is not about grasping, but allowing, like water. Such good words of wisdom for the time we're in right now. Okay, so the first step, and this is what the weekly planning guide looks like, just so you can see it. The first step is to visualize. Visualize achieving some of your goals and desires. And I lead whole webinars on the power of visualization. I'll probably be doing one, I'm sure, in the next year. But there's a couple of things just to give you the highlights in terms of why I'm such a believer in visualization and how to make yours more effective. So there's so much research that shows that visualization is a really powerful tool to get more of what you want in life with greater ease. There was one study with basketball players that showed that 1 hour of visualization was the equivalent of 7 hours of practicing. So they had one group like visualize making free throws and another group physically practice. And that's what they discovered. And I have used visualization so much to, find apartments and homes and for my business, like in personal and professional ways. And I have honestly been astounded at how effective it is. There's a couple of things to remember if you want to do it really well. So it's harnessing the power of your mind-body connection and really the power of your subconscious mind. They've also shown that our subconscious mind is basically in charge of 95% of our brain activity and what really happens in our life. So our subconscious mind is effectively running the show day in, day out. And most of us think our conscious mind is what's running the show, but it's not. And that's why you might see a person who says, well, I really want to lose weight. And yet they don't exercise and they eat really unhealthy. So consciously they want to lose weight, but subconsciously something else is going on. Or someone says, I want to be in a really healthy, supportive, romantic partnership. And yet they keep choosing partners who do not offer that. It's because consciously they want one thing and subconsciously something else is going on. So visualization is one of the ways that you can start to send messages to your subconscious mind about what you really want in life. And it's incredibly effective. And there's a few things you want to remember when you're doing a visualization. I know I did one a few weeks ago for bringing calm to COVID and talked about this a little bit, but you want to find the images or pictures or sensations in your own mind's eye that trigger the greatest physiological reaction in you, that trigger the strongest emotional response. So if you can imagine something in your mind's eye and then actually feel it in your body or feel the emotions that go along with it, that's how you know that you've locked into a really powerful visualization. So a quick story I like to tell, there was a woman I was coaching years ago and she had a goal of becoming a partner at this investment firm and making like $600,000 a year. She was already very successful. And so she wanted to make partner. And we're playing around with, well, what's the image in your mind's eye that would signify this goal of making partner? And she was like, I don't know, so something as boring as like your W-2 statement, your tax return is probably not going to elicit like all the good feelings that you want in your body. So I was like, well, what's the image that represents the goal of making partner? And she's like, I don't know. So we were playing around. I was asking her questions and I said, well, does everyone at your firm celebrate do they call you up to the boardroom and you think you're in trouble? Kind of like, that lawyer movie with Tom Cruise. What is it? The Firm, I think it is, where he's gets called up there and then they open the doors and they go, surprise! And everyone has champagne. It's like, you made partner? She goes, no, my firm doesn't do any big celebration when you make partner. There's no event that signifies it that I can use for my visualization. So I said, okay. So we're playing around. And then all of a sudden she goes, the parking space. And I was like, what? She goes, yeah, the parking space. Oh my gosh, Vanessa, when I get promoted to partner, I get my own parking space and I'll get to just pull right in and I don't have to walk, and dealing with parking in downtown San Francisco is horrible and it puts me in a bad mood and starts my morning in the worst way. And So I'll just get to slide right into my parking spot and like it's right in front of the elevator and I can go right up to work. And as she described it, like her whole energy went, I mean, she was jazzed about this partner parking space. So that was what she used as her image and her visualization, was seeing herself sliding right into that partner parking space. And then so sure enough, like 4 months later at the end of the year, she got promoted to partner ahead of schedule and, you know, got the big bonus and everything that she was hoping for. So what I have found is, the reason I share that story is it really illustrates how you want to play around with different scenarios or images in your mind's eye until you lock in on the one that feels the best in your body. And, you know, as we're in this tumultuous time right now with COVID, I think it can be helpful to visualize the things that really matter to you. You know, being with family or loved ones or expressing gratitude, these things, and coming back and feeling anchored in that. So I'm going to lead a short visualization to help us connect with some of that. And okay, sorry, Sylvie just had a question about, will my guided visualization on values be available? I'm not sure what you mean about on values, but I have a really great guided visualization that's 25 minutes long to connect you to your future self and go through different areas of your life and visualize them. So we'll be sure to send that out with the recording, because I'm not going to do that long of a visualization today. So the other thing I just want to say about visualizing, so the first thing is you want to play around with it until you have a really strong felt sense in your body and you have an emotional reaction. That's really important. The second thing is that the way that you can communicate with your subconscious mind is through hypnosis. And right before you fall asleep, you know, when you're kind of in that in-between state, like you're drifting off to sleep, you're not totally asleep yet. And in the morning, when you first wake up and you're kind of in that in-between state, you're not totally awake yet, that's actually when your brain gets into theta wave state. And theta wave is where you can do the hypnotic induction and hypnotic suggestion. So it's actually when your subconscious mind is the most available for input, basically, is when you're in this theta brainwave state. And so that's one of the reasons why the best time to visualize things is when you're lying in bed at night, right before you drift off to sleep. Or you could even try it if you're someone who wakes up and you're able to maintain that in-between state when you first wake up, then you can do it there as well. So I recommend, if you have, you know, something that you're really wanting to call into your life, and you've found like the images or the scenario that you visualize that gets the good feelings in your body, I recommend you visualize that every night just as you're drifting off to sleep, and then again in the morning, like right as you wake up. And you can play around with this. You're your own best authority, so you can play around and see what feels good to you. All right, so that's like the mini lesson on visualization. And so visualize is the first step in the weekly planning guide because it's such a powerful tool. And when I do the weekly planning myself, I often play around with, sometimes I'll do a long-term visualization, you know, where do I want to be in 10 years? And sometimes I'll do a visualization for that day, which I've really been loving doing a lot more of recently. Like, how do I want today to go? And I'll just sit there and I'll imagine some of the things I'm going to do that day, the people I'm going to be with, and I'll visualize my ideal version of those activities that I'll be doing that day. And it's a really incredible tool to set an intention for how you want your day to go. Okay, Susanna, well, I'm curious if you have anything to add when it comes to visualize.
No, I had just been following your advice on what we call the segment intending, and that has been really, really powerful, because I think especially now where we don't know kind of what is reality in the future, even just kind of honing in on setting an intention for the next hour is really, really powerful.
Yay, I love it. Okay, yes. So what she referred to, segment intending, it's something that I learned from Abraham Hicks, highly recommend, spiritual teacher. It's Esther Hicks, and she channels this consciousness called Abraham. You can look it up on YouTube or the web. But she talks about something called segment intending, which is that you visualize like the next segment of your day. So we all have these moments when we're in transition, like you're driving, well, maybe you're not as much anymore, but you used to be driving in your car, like coming home from work, or maybe you're walking down the hallway, transitioning from working to being with your kids. So when you're in those transition moments, that can be a good time to set an intention and visualize how you want the next segment of your day to go. So right as you sit down at your desk, you take a moment and visualize, okay, what do I want to have happen in the next hour or the next 2 hours? As you transition to being with your kids, you think, okay, what do I want to have happen? How do I want to feel when I'm with my kids for the next couple hours? So we're going to do just a short visualization right now. And since Suzanne mentioned the segment intending, I think what we'll do is we'll do a version of that. We'll help you visualize just something for your day today. And then if you want the longer future self visualization that I've done, we'll send a link to that audio with the recording. Okay, so take a moment and allow your eyes to gently close. And again, just tuning into your body, feeling the support of the floor or the chair or the couch or the bed beneath you, wherever you're resting. Taking a couple of deep breaths. Tuning into the physical body, just noticing how you're feeling right now. Remembering those kind words that you were saying to a friend and that you said to yourself when we practiced the self-compassion. Just reminding yourself of that message right now. And as you inhale, I'd like for you to visualize or imagine that you're inhaling a calm, peaceful energy. It's filling your whole body, your whole being with this beautiful, calm, peaceful energy. And as you exhale, visualize or imagine that you're releasing any tension, any anxiety, any stress that you've been holding on to. You may even want to move your jaw or roll your neck or your shoulders as you let go of tension, releasing any anxiety. And just for this little while that we do this today, have nothing to worry about. So, enjoy the way that feels, to not have anything to worry about. And enjoy the way this feels to have relaxation moving through the body. Inhaling this calm, peaceful, grounded energy. And with each exhale, releasing any tension or anxiety that you've been holding on to. Letting go of worry, letting go of stress, letting go of anxiety. We don't need that. We don't need that. Just letting it all go. As you continue to inhale this calm, peaceful energy. And as you do, you may even see a color or colors associated with it as you inhale this calm, peaceful energy. And it fills your whole body, your whole being, your whole energy field with this calm, peaceful energy. And as you exhale and you release tension and anxiety, you may also see a color or colors associated with that. And as you stay in this calm and relaxed state, I'd like for you to visualize or imagine an upcoming segment of your day. Perhaps you're going to be working or spending time with family or loved ones. Take a moment and choose an upcoming segment of your day. Now I'd like for you to see yourself there, feel yourself, sense yourself as much as you can using all 5 senses. And visualize or imagine how you'd like that segment to go. You can start by setting an intention. How do you want to feel during that period of time? Perhaps if you're going to be driving in your car, going to the grocery store, you want to intend safety, calm, arriving at your destination safely, feeling safe and healthy and protected as you go out into the world, feeling calm and at ease. Or if you're going to be doing work on a Zoom video call with colleagues, perhaps you want to intend clear communication and efficiency and productivity and ease. So just take a moment and visualize or imagine a segment of your day. Set an intention for how you want to feel during that period of time, and spend a few moments visualizing or imagining yourself feeling that way during that segment of your day. And if you finish that segment and you want to move on to another segment, you can do that, setting a new intention and visualizing or imagining the next segment of your day. Who will you be with, and how do you want to feel during that time? If you'd like, you can go through another segment of your day. Who you'll be with and how you'd like to feel, what your intention is for that period of time. Or you can keep deepening into the one that you're already in. Continue moving through different segments of your day until you get all the way through dinner and into the evening. And now visualizing or imagining yourself getting ready for bed, perhaps putting a glass of water on your nightstand that you can drink in the morning. Imagine yourself going to sleep tonight, lying in bed, looking back on your day and going, wow, that was a great day. Just taking a moment and appreciating yourself as you lie in bed, thinking, I created that. I felt focused and clear, grounded, calm. Imagine yourself lying in bed tonight, reviewing your day and these different segments that you went through and how you were able to achieve whatever that intention was that you set for each segment. So see yourself now lying in bed tonight, looking back over your day and going, yes, I did that. And yes, I did that. Having really lived those segments as you intended them. So see yourself now in bed, reflecting back on your day with a smile on your face, feeling really grateful for what you created. And tying it back to this moment right now, where you joined this call with this group and you took the time to be intentional about your day, about what you would like to achieve and how you would like to feel. Taking a moment and appreciating yourself, seeing yourself, feeling yourself, sensing yourself any way you can, lying in bed tonight and just feeling so filled with gratitude and appreciation for yourself, for what you're creating in your life. And then you drift off to sleep, perhaps visualizing some of your bigger, more long-term goals or dreams. And you drift off into a peaceful sleep tonight, feeling more relaxed than you have in weeks. You wake up tomorrow morning feeling energized and excited and ready to start your day. Feeling grateful for your life and all that you're creating. As you're ready now, tuning back into your body in this present time and space, feeling the support of the floor or the chair beneath you, noticing any sounds inside the room or outside the room. And as you're ready, allowing your eyes to gently open. We'd love to hear from some of you if you want to share what that was like. Was it easy to visualize or imagine different segments of your day? Did you get caught up like worrying in some of them? What did you notice? You can unmute yourselves to share, or you can type in the comments. Who would like to share? Vanessa said it's been very deep. And Barbara said, love reflecting as peace, love, and order. And Darlene, I love it. First class plain seat and hot fudge sundae as you're on your way to attend an amazing spiritual retreat. That sounds awesome. Deborah said, notice that the day felt manageable. Yes, it can really help with that. Who else wants to share what you noticed or experienced as you set some intentions for your different segments? And Bettina said, love the smile at the end of the day in bed. It was the most emotionally powerful moment. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I felt that too, lying in bed at night and just feeling so grateful. And Darlene said soothing and loving. I was like, logo. Suzanne, I don't know if you want to unmute or share anything, Suzanne? Or you want me to?
Yeah, no, I think I focused in on ease on each of the different segments, and that just, the feeling of that just felt amazing because it hasn't felt like that. So I think really intending and real visualizing what that can feel like has been powerful for me in the past. So
I love it. Yeah, feeling ease. Thank you. And Jennifer said, a sense that whatever happens today, it will be okay. I love it. And Anne said, I'm feeling very isolated from seeing clients at the office, and this helped fill the space, comfort and peace. And Molly said, I liked going through all the segments of the day all the way to tonight. Really helpful. Yes. Sometimes I just do one segment. Sometimes I do the whole day. It can be fun to set different intentions for different segments. What Abraham Hicks teaches is that those transition moments between segments, so when you're walking down the hall or when you're driving in your car from one thing to the next, that's when you can intend and visualize for the upcoming segment. But also sometimes it's nice to just do it for the whole day all at once. So you can play around with this and see what works for you. And again, we're being really spacious with the weekly planning guide today because we can be. So normally this might be a 5-minute activity that you do, if that, 3 to 5 minutes that you do on your own. Or if you want to do a longer one and listen to a guided visualization, like the 25-minute one that we'll put the link to with this video, you can do that, maybe once a week or once a month, whatever feels good to you. All right. Kimberly said, I'm looking forward to certain segments. And Darlene said, connecting, being proud of what I created and knowing my choices I am creating. Very empowering. Yeah, we have so much power to create our own reality. It's truly astounding. And the weird thing is many of us don't take the time to get clear and set an intention and imagine how we want our day and our life to go. And we just get on autopilot and we get in reactive mode. And then we wonder why it doesn't feel good and we haven't lived our goals and dreams and visions. Well, it's because sometimes you need to step back and take the time to get clear on what really matters to you, what your intention is, not just on your long-term goals, but even for today. Like I was imagining myself rolling around on the grass with my kids this afternoon and being really present and having my heart feel really open. And I could feel my 3-year-old like on my body as I was visualizing it. And I already got like some of the endorphins and the joy from that. And so we really can create our own reality. And the cool thing is that the neuroscience has now caught up to all of the woo-woo stuff with visualizing. And they've shown that when you savor the good, when I imagine my 3-year-old on my body rolling around on the grass, I am actually building those neural pathways in my brain. I'm strengthening them, and those neurons are going to fire together and wire together more strongly going forward. So then the next time I'm on the grass, I'm more likely to actually be enjoying it rather than to be thinking about what am I going to make for dinner tonight, which, those are two very different experiences. So this stuff is really powerful and it's truly life-changing. And yay, we can do it whenever we want.
Just to add something, a friend of mine posted something today that I thought was so insightful. And it said, instead of counting the days, make the days count.
So I love that. Yeah, thank you. Especially right now, it's true.
Yes.
So many people are like, oh, I'm on week 5. And even that, it just sounds like, ugh, like I'm dealing with something horrible for 5 weeks. It's sort of like the implicit message in the, I'm on week 5, I've been trapped. So I love that, making the days count. Vanessa said, that's beautiful, Suzanne. Okay, so back to our weekly planning. Step 1 is to visualize. We just did that in spades. Step 2 is self-care planning. So I love this, where you're saying, before you think about your action items for the week, you're going to do your self-care planning. So what you do during this step is you're going to ask yourself, what will nurture me this week? And you want to spend 1 or 2 minutes actually scheduling it. So putting it in your calendar. And right now, you might not be able to, I don't know, go get a massage, but you can still take a bath, walk in nature, find ways to practice self-care and actually block it off on your calendar. One of the things that I've been advising people who are working from home is to repurpose your commute time for self-care. So when you're working from home, it's really easy to now just work more and to get online earlier or to work later. I invite you to think about your commute time as self-care time and to do something at the beginning, at the end of, and at the end of your day to practice some self-care. And one woman I was on a coaching call with yesterday, she was saying, Vanessa, I'm really struggling with the routine because I used to have my commute home and I would take like the train and then I would walk outside for 10 minutes home and I would see nature and I felt like it was I would sort of let go of my work day during the commute. And now I'm just walking down the hallway in my house. So what we talked about is having her actually at the end of her workday, go take a 10-minute walk outside as if she was commuting still, rather than just walking down the hallway and starting dinner. To have that nice time in nature as a reset between working and then coming home with loved ones. So I recommend repurposing some of your commute time for self-care right now. That's a great new strategy during these uncertain times. So just take a moment and think of what self-care are you going to do, not just today, but this week, like every day this week. And actually, during COVID, I would recommend self-care every day, probably multiple times a day.
3 times a day.
Yeah, basically the commute to and from work should be self-care, like morning and evening. So take a moment and actually write down, what are you going to do for self-care this week? And if you have your calendar in front of you, you can even pull it up and schedule it, like block it off. And if you want to share in the chat what you're going to do for self-care, that will inspire all of us. So if anyone wants to share in the chat what you're going to do for self-care. And Eleanor, I just want to share what you sent me with everyone. She has this link on the subject of sadness and lethargy. So this is more relevant to what we were talking about before, but I'm just going to post it to everybody. All right. Mine is more baths and more candles. Suzanne, what do you have for self-care?
Well, before I would go out to museums, and I'm really missing that, or doing these, some kind of creative outing. So I've actually been doing exhibits online, and Molly sent me some, so that's been fun. But I've also scheduled white space where it's on my calendar and nothing has to result from this time, but I go in and I just be. And that seems especially more important now that everyone's home and there's not a lot of space. So I've been carving out a little bit of white space.
I love it, the white space. So good. We have some other fun ones. I love, Lou said, soak my feet and use a face mask. Good one. I forgot, I have some of those at home. Oh, also Suzanne, this man in Tahoe, like pulled his car on next to me on the side of the road, rolled down his window to tell me vehemently about this website, museums.zen, where apparently you can tour all, like the Louvre and some of the world's best museums. They're doing like virtual online tours. I have not yet clicked on the link, but he was so vehement about it, it's stuck in my mind. So, yes, check that out. Quadro said, read a book. Thank you for sharing that, Quadro, because that inspired me to add that I'm going to sit on my deck looking at the redwood trees with a cup of tea and a good like fiction book. That it's funny how like a good book can feel really nourishing, you know, and yet we forget to do that. Lisa said, every other day I go for a walk into the ravine near our home and lose myself for a while in nature. Beautiful. Oh, and also you're going to get up early to do a sacred dance program that's inspiring you. Oh, that sounds fun.
Mhm.
Sylvie said, no nature available where you are. That gets me thinking, Sylvie, if you just get curious and creative about how you can experience nature virtually. You know, I wrote an article for Forbes years ago where I found some research that said that in addition to looking at nature, when employees from their desks could see trees, it helped their, like all their good feeling hormones and chemicals in their bodies and everything. But actually that moving nature is more effective than still nature, which means if you see like leaves rustling in the wind, or if you see a fountain, like a water flowing, then that can really help. So I'm even wondering if you could look at nature on your computer or find a small way to have like an indoor fountain or some way to connect with moving nature from your home. And Jennifer said there's great videos on YouTube that show nature. Yeah, and just for me at least, whenever I see moving leaves, I think of this research from this Forbes article I wrote and I go like, oh yeah, that's really good for me. So if you see moving nature, that can help your whole physiology. And Karen also said, check out the Planet Earth channel or National Geographic. Animal cameras from various zoos. Oh, that's a cool one, Suzanne. I hadn't thought of that.
People have been doing that. They've been loving it. And I've actually been getting into it too. We're like, oh, look, it's walking.
Yeah, well, it didn't.
San Diego and.
Oh, very cool. Well, my sister was even showing me, because she's on Twitter all the time, that there was like some penguins were released and there's this video of them going down the stairs. That's hilarious.
Aww.
So many good animal videos these days. Okay, so self-care planning. That's step 2 of the weekly planning process, is to take care of yourself. Step 3 is to celebrate and appreciate. So what you're going to do is you're going to write down 10 things that you are proud of from last week. And what I like to do, because I inevitably forget what the heck I did last week, is I always end up pulling up my calendar from last week and looking at my meetings or what I actually did. And then I go, oh yeah, oh, I did that and I did that. And this is one of those exercises you could dismiss and think it doesn't sound like a big deal, but when you actually do it, it's amazing. Every single time I do it, I go, oh my gosh, I got so much more done than I realized. And during this time of COVID, when a lot of people are feeling fragmented and unfocused and your days are so different, what I recommend is that you celebrate and appreciate not just like the work that you're getting done, but what are you doing for your family or your community or these other actions that many of you are taking. Okay, like I attempted to homeschool my kids without losing my shit. That's a big thing to celebrate. So, you know, write down both personal and professional. If you're holding your family together right now, you're acting like being a calm, like supportive person for your children. That's how important is that right now? That's probably the most important thing. So if you might be getting less done at work, but you're spending your energy in other ways, it's important to acknowledge and celebrate and appreciate that as well.
And it's just, nothing can be too small. You know, when the first couple of weeks where I was just in the midst of whiplash and, you know, all my schedule went out the window, I was doing this and I'm like, I scheduled a call. You know, like, it was because it was that monumental. So, I mean, celebrate the little things that you're doing.
Yes, especially now. So everyone just take a moment. And if you don't have the soul planner, which I know most of you don't, just get a piece of paper and a pen, and you're going to write down 10 things you're proud of from last week. And again, if you want to pull up your calendar, that usually helps me remember what I actually did. So we're all going to take a moment and do that step together now. If you exercised or meditated, all those kinds of things count. Okay, anyone want to share anything you noticed as you made the list? What was that like for you? Were you surprised that you did more than you thought? Or were you struggling to find things to say?
For me, it was a little of both. For me, it was a little of both. I'm sort of surprised almost that my social life exists because I'm still new to the area that I live in. And I was just starting to get to know people in the community besides my family when everything shut down and so on. So I got the newcomers group in town to start thinking about and moving some of their events to Zoom. So I participated in a book group last week by Zoom, and there are other activities coming up. They thought it was a good idea, so it's going to become the standard format for as long as it takes, because we're generally an older group and therefore generally not even doing our own grocery shopping for the most part. So I was surprised at how much more social activity exists now than a few weeks ago when this started. But I'm also sometimes surprised at how little I seem to accomplish. But I wanted to say something actually about the segment intentions, because it made me realize that I often kind of look at my day and have sort of a very long list of things that's too much to get done during the day, and then I meander from one to another. I'm not very focused, but doing that segment intentioning, I feel like it makes what I have on my list much more manageable, or it makes me manage my expectations better because I have a better sense of what I can accomplish in an hour and don't try to overschedule an hour than I do the whole day, where I throw everything on the list so I don't forget about it, but then I jump from one thing to another in a way that makes me less productive. So I feel good kind of going forward about thinking about how I can plan things out if I don't try to kind of put them all on one list. And
I love it. Yeah, that's a great awareness. Thank you for sharing. And how beautiful that you're like introducing Zoom to this demographic with the book club, and you're like the tech savvy one, giving them some new options.
That part yet, but.
Well, thank you for sharing. Love it. Anyone else want to share?
When I looked at it, it was interesting, Vanessa, when you had said, look at your calendar, and I did, and my calendar was not very full from last week. But then as I started writing things down, I realized it's what you talked about earlier, that it isn't so much about my calendar and my things that are accomplishments, but it was about the relationships that I fostered, or people I made feel better, or someone I know who's in the ICU and she wanted to text every day or have me call. Just that those things, they were really much more relational, but truly that is a value that's more important to me than what I might have gotten done.
I love it. Such a great point. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. One of mine was even celebrating that I did less, because I too, I had so much less on my calendar. And it's so interesting because our culture, especially in the West, we've been inculcated with associating our value, our inherent worthiness with what we do, what we accomplish. So even in the way that I celebrate my accomplishments, I only give myself credit for what I'm doing, usually, and even with my family, I showed up in this way, versus what I did for the first time was to celebrate and appreciate myself for doing nothing. At a time when that's really important, actually, to do nothing, or just to do less, at least. And Kathleen said, I didn't try to fill the empty spaces forced onto us by quarantine. I did more by not doing that. Oh, yes, I love that. And Jennifer shared, I find the celebrate and appreciate section can be a great space to acknowledge something about the achievement, outcome, or completion, but about how you showed up, or that you even attempted something. That's so good, Jennifer. I love that point. Again, because we're so focused on, what was the outcome? What was the end result? Versus, I actually kind of failed at that thing. I didn't do a good job, but I learned a lot, or I stretched myself, or it was uncomfortable. The other thing I like about the celebrate and appreciate list is I often put the things on there that nobody is thanking me for doing. Like for me, one of the big ones is making sure my kids are eating healthy food. And my husband cares about that, but he doesn't, initiate it as much or make it a priority. And so I often will celebrate and appreciate myself for doing that, because it's important to me. And I don't get anybody like validating it. And so this list is my place to validate myself in the areas where I'm wanting, continued encouragement. And Quadwo said, I joked with a neighbor and shopped for food, texted a couple of friends to make sure they're all right. Yes, so those are all such like beautiful actions and such wise action during this time, and so worthy of our celebration and appreciation. Thank you for sharing. And Darlene is so proud she conducted a Zoom guided imagery and interactive talk without overthinking it, which is monumental for me, she said. I love it. She also said, Linda, what you said was a very important insight, and well said. Awesome. All right, anyone else want to share anything you noticed or experienced? All right, let's move on to the next step. So after celebrate and appreciate, the next step in the weekly planning process is to just say no. So what can you take off your plate this week by outsourcing, delegating, postponing, or just not doing at all? So what can you say no to? Especially during this kind of crazy time. Think about like, what are you putting pressure on yourself to do that maybe was part of your old routine, your old life, but that you really just want to start letting go of now? Like for me, cooking has been one that I'm just like, I'm not doing it right now. I'm going to spend more money on takeout. I actually just emailed a chef yesterday in our area who might deliver food that's not crazy expensive to our family. So what can you outsource or delegate? So take a moment. What do you want to say no to? Or perhaps there's a work commitment that doesn't feel like a priority. Maybe you want to say no to the news. That's a good one to say no to right now. Or maybe you want to say no to long conversations with family members or friends who are really in a place of worry and anxiety and fear, and you're wanting to set some better boundaries to kind of protect your energy right now. So who or what do you want to say no to? And take a moment and write that down. And if you want to share in the chat what you're going to say no to, it inspires other people to hear what folks are taking off their plate during this time. And Suzanne, I don't know if you have anything to share on the just saying no.
It's kind of like you. The trickiest time of day for me is dinner time for a lot of different reasons. So I think having to say no to trying to come up with a fabulous meal is going to go off my plate this literally. And we'll do takeout, support local businesses.
Love it. Yeah, I'm even going to say no to the like quarantine recipe exchange email that I've gotten. I have like 3 of them in my inbox, and I'm like, no, I love you people, but no, I'm just not going to do that right now. Darlene said no to long phone calls. Kathleen said just say no to planning months in advance. Oh, Kathleen, that's a really good one right now. I just want to say I have a member of my family who runs a small business, and they're trying to figure out all these things, and they applied for the loan, and there's so many things about the business that he's have no idea in 3 months. So spinning your wheels sometimes is really ineffective right now. Quada said no to immediately going back out once my state or city opens back up. I plan on a gradual return. Yes, love it. And then Sex said saying no to the pressure of planning too many social video chats. Love it. Yes, I had one last night that I was supposed to be on, and I was like, no, I'm tired. I'm not going to join. Saying no to completing a program that's stressing me out and no longer feeling aligned with what I'm really wanting. It's okay to put it down for now. Yes. Zach also said saying no to a daily shower. I love it. Linda, love it. No to thinking about after coronavirus. Yeah, because it's sort of like, what's the point right now? You know, yeah, I had a retreat that was supposed to be this weekend. Sad, but we're going to postpone it. And I was trying to figure out, like, should we do it in the fall and November? And it's just silly because we have no idea what's going to be going on with the airlines or the country. Darlene, no to a bra forever. These are funny today. No to having to clean my closets or organizing my office. Yeah. What about like no to, being really productive during like shelter in place? I've talked with some people about this pressure to do some big creative project, or it's like we also could just get through it.
I think I'm going to take let my kids take a day off. We might just all take a day off.
Yeah. You mean from homeschool?
From homeschooling and do something different because it's just so odd and it's pressure. So
yeah, I love it. It's such a good one, Suzanne. I did that yesterday. I'm with my kids on Wednesdays now, and I was like, forget your homeschool. We're going to the beach, and my husband was like, the beach is going to be closed. And I was like, I don't care. The parking lot was closed. We had to walk a little further, but we found a nice little spot, and it was like so lovely. Okay, so moving on. The next step is major lessons and inspiration. So write down any key learnings from the past week, any major lessons, meaningful quotes, things that inspire you, or people that you'd like to meet. So take a moment and write down any major lessons or inspiration from the last week or just from even the beginning since this coronavirus started. All right, anyone want to share? Oh, and Darlene said, please repeat the task. Sorry, Darlene. Major lessons and inspiration. So write down any key learnings from the past. Normally you do it for the past week, but I think we could even just do it from the beginning of COVID. Any major lessons or meaningful quotes or things that inspire you or people you'd like to meet. So this is a segment for major lessons and inspiration. So what are some of your key learnings or major lessons right now? So who would like to share? And then, oh yes, Sec asked, will this recording be sent to us? Yes, we will be sending out this recording afterwards. So don't worry, you can, and then the great thing is you can watch it and take yourself through the weekly planning process anytime you'd like. I also have like a more fancy video of me taking people through the weekly planning without all of this exchange and back and forth if you want the shorter version of just the steps. So we'll be sure to post that with this recording, with a link to the Soul Planner. You're gonna have it all, don't worry. All right, who would like to share any major lessons or learnings or inspiration?
For me, I had a big reminder that even in the midst of all the scarcity, that abundance is everywhere, and seeing how people are stepping up to help each other, and how it's just a specific example of strangers that I've never met have reached out and are helping me source masks in South Africa. I mean, it's just been amazing.
I love it. Thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. It's there's something I read years ago about someone who studied like different natural disasters around the world, and how the news reports on the natural disaster so much and how horrible it is, but that the research shows that it's always these moments where the humanity comes together in unprecedented ways to support each other. And that's what's happening right now globally.
I actually read that that's a survival instinct.
So cool.
I've noticed something that I have sort of in my head intellectualized, but now realized, oh, now I'm really experiencing it. And so the learning is so much stronger. So there were two things. One is I really have to fully accept myself as I am, because right now I am the only physical friend I can be with. So I really just, it's really about accepting myself, because in some ways there are a lot fewer distractions than before. And then the other thing was, well, I guess it sort of fits together, but this notion of holding all parts, that it's a lot more about and than it is about either or. And so within a day, you can have so many emotions or feelings about what's going on in the world, just like you can have so many emotions or feelings about yourself. And it's okay to have all of them. There's no right or wrong or either or.
I love it. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Yes, such good wisdom. And it's true. You're like your own best friend right now. So it's like a forced period of so much connection with self in a lot of ways. Yes, thank you. And Darlene said, Gay and Katie Hendricks, Rick Hansen, my imageries, be in the moment, breathe, choose peace, freedom, and joy while acknowledging actual feelings. Yeah, I love that, Darlene. I said something similar. Mine is just that you can always choose to focus on the gift or focus on the good, or stay in the pain and the difficulty. And I feel like for me, these last few weeks, it's really reinforced how much I believe in our own power and our own ability to create our reality by focusing on the good or focusing on the gift, even in what seems to be very difficult circumstances.
I think I've been focusing also what Carol said, in one of your prior Zoom calls, and it was what you focus on expands.
Yeah.
That's been a big lesson that I've tried to employ.
Yes, I love it. And Deborah said, what I learned about myself is that I can't force myself to be productive. that it's easier for me to be of service, and I can only manage the thing in front of me and not attached to the future. Yeah, so beautiful. And Sylvie shared, I realized this week I was still determined by my fear of abandonment, which led me to ignore my own needs. Being a perfectionist, which really showed clearly with homeschooling, and it's really scary. Yes. Yeah, homeschooling can I noticed too, I was like, wow, my good student is getting really triggered by my child's homeschooling right now. Like if she doesn't complete all the assignments, I'm, it's activating something in me. And P.S. I have a first grader. She's 7.5 years old. It's like, it's kind of silly. It's really silly to think about that. And Kathleen said, I'd like to have met Mr. Rogers. Oh, that's so sweet. Okay, so moving on to the next step. The next step is failure is feedback. So I always like to reframe. I don't even really use the word failure. It's more, what can I do differently, or what didn't work? So if you just look back, and again, I think for this weekly planning, it might be helpful not just to look at the last week, but maybe even since COVID began, like what has not been working for you, or what can you improve going forward? What didn't happen last week or in the last few weeks that you want to change? And then Suzanne, if you want to add anything or chime in, feel free at any point.
Sure.
So failure's feedback, or what didn't happen, what would you like to do differently going forward when you reflect back on last week or the past few weeks? If you want to share again in the chat, you can. All right, who would like to share what didn't happen, or what would you like to do differently going forward? Darlene said, move my body more by walking. I'll share, it's funny, I meditate at night and I use this app, Insight Timer. You can find some of my meditations on there. But I just use the timer usually. But sometimes because I use that app, I end up looking at Instagram afterwards or before. And then I'll go into like a weird rabbit hole where I'm going to meditate. Or now lately, I do love carpool karaoke, those videos with that, what's his name, the comedian? It's like one of those late shows. Anyway, I'll end up watching a bunch of those, and then it'll be like too late to do as long of a meditation. So mine was just noticing that when I get caught in like some of the social media stuff. Yes, James Corden. Oh my gosh, I love him, by the way. I love the carpool karaoke. It's like fabulous. And sometimes there's a place for that. But when it's, bedtime and I only have 20 minutes and I want to meditate, I don't want to spend half the time on YouTube videos. So that was one of mine. Anybody else want to share?
I'll share, Vanessa. I have not been moving forward on a project related to a program for months, and I've been beating myself up about it, and I realized that it's changed. My value around it has changed. It doesn't matter to me anymore. And it did at the time I signed it up, but I just sort of realized, like, every day I get to start fresh and I get to tune in on living from my highest values. And if it's not aligned, I can give myself a whole pass, and maybe I'll pick it up again sometime in the future. But for right now, it's draining, it's not expansive, and I've decided not to do it. And in doing that, something else opened up and it's just like flowing. So I'm just like, I made some room, I tuned in, and I feel so happy that I've given myself permission to stop it. It's a failure. I mean, it could be viewed that way, but I'm patting myself on the back, like I'm failing forward. I'm just doing it.
I love it. I love it. Well, and it sounds like you're really just honoring what's true for you now and how you've evolved and changed and grown, and what you wanted then is not what you want now. And that's
and it's okay. Yeah, and it's okay.
Yeah, and that it's okay. I love it. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else want to share? And I also, when I do this step, I will tend to be really careful to notice if I'm starting to beat myself up or going into shame as I review what didn't happen, because that's often our default setting. And so it's really important to practice self-compassion during this step in particular. And I like to use the affirmation, I learn from my mistakes and then I move on. So it's sort of like take the learning, but then move on. You don't need to wallow in it with self-loathing. There's no value in that.
It's just more information.
Yeah, there you go. More information.
It's feedback.
Yes. And Sylvie asked a great question. What's the difference between a major lesson and failure as feedback? So for me, at least, Sylvie, and I'm curious what Suzanne would say, I do the failure as feedback as what didn't happen? What do I want to do differently in my life? The major lesson can be more of an insight or an aha, like, oh, I just realized X, Y, and Z. Sometimes the major lesson is related to a failure, but not necessarily. Suzanne, what would you say?
Yeah, mine would be, it's kind of more of what's an inspiration or an insight that may not even come from something I did.
Yeah, like you could read something or hear something and go, oh. Okay, next step, giving back and connecting. So ask yourself, who can I help this week? And list 3 people that you'd like to reach out to give back or connect. And this can be personally or professionally, especially during COVID. You know, it might be friends or family members that you want to reach out to, or it could be something for your work. Who can you help out? So, who can I help this week? And write down 3 names of people that you want to reach out to give back or to connect. And what I like to do during this step is to try to connect with your heart or your intuition and just see if someone's face randomly pops across your mind's eye. So rather than coming from your head, see if you can let your heart or your intuition kind of guide you on, who are those 3 people? And once you've got those 3 names, you're going to ask yourself, who can I reach out to receive some support this week? And you're going to list 1 to 3 people that you can reach out to ask for some support. And then if you want, you can even schedule when you will reach out to those people. So you can take a moment and put it in your calendar. You're more likely to follow through if you have something in your calendar. Suzanne, is there anything you would add for this step?
I think like what you said, just kind of taking a minute to kind of get out of your head and let the the feeling and the what comes to mind after you've collected yourself for a minute has been a big game changer when you do this step.
Yeah. And is there anything that helps you get out of your head and connect to that part?
I just do a couple of deep breaths and just kind of center and just kind of ask the question, who can I reach out to this week? And usually it's not, it's a little bit random. It's not what I would have thought of.
Love it. So a couple of deep breaths, get centered, and then pose the question. And how often, Suzanne, do you put it in your calendar that you're going to reach out to them?
Generally, I put it in every time, because that's the only way it gets done for them. If it's me.
Yeah, it's true. I know I've noticed when I do write it down and put it in my calendar, I am more likely to do it. So it does work. If you want to take a moment and put it in your calendar. All right, the next step is what we call soul whispers. So write down any soul whispers, curiosities, synchronicities, gut feelings, or intuitive ideas. If you've had any of those, kind of a little breadcrumb of an idea of something that you might want to do or say, or someone you might want to reach out to, or some intuitive idea, you write that down here. And so, for example, I talk about sometimes getting little like signs or nudges from the universe. Like if, you know, you come across the same book title like 3 times in a week, you read it in an article and then a friend tells you about it, and then you see it in a third place, that might be a little bit of a sign or a nudge that you're meant to read that book. And this is reminding me, there was one that I had recently and now I can't remember it because I didn't write it down as a soul whisper. So take a moment and just see if there's any signs or synchronicities or gut feelings or intuitive ideas that have been coming to you, and acknowledge that and write it down. And I also recommend you take action on one of these soul whispers if you have a couple that come through. Suzanne, anything that you would add? Oh, Vanessa Jolie said you're going to read the Untamed book. Yeah, Glennon Doyle's book.
Oh, that's a good one. Well, that's a little synchronicity because somebody else told me about that, texted me about that. So I'm putting that down.
So good. Highly recommend it.
Vanessa, doesn't Abraham Hicks have something about after you do like this kind of even a 17 seconds where you just kind of get into a meditation, you listen to just an ambient noise, and then what's your first impulse? Isn't that there's something from that? What's your first impulse from that? And don't try to analyze it. So that's what I tend to do on this step too.
So will you sometimes take the time to meditate right then and there on the step?
Yeah. Just kind of, again, I think it helps me tune into what the real impulses are and get out of my head.
I love that. Yeah, I like to meditate and I'll pose a question like, how can I be of service at this time? You know, and the whole idea for these Bringing Calm to COVID gatherings came from me meditating and just asking that question. And then this whole idea came through. Same
with my creativity challenge and my newsletter. And the
yeah. So sometimes it can help to get still and quiet and then kind of connect with that inner voice, that deeper wisdom within you, and just see what it has to say. And that's what we mean by soul whispers, is connecting to your own inner wisdom and just noticing. And often, I don't know, even the word soul whisper, it sounds like it should be some amazing like bolt of lightning kind of moment. But usually it is like a little impulse. That's why we called it a whisper. It's not necessarily some earth-shattering thing. It's just like a little idea, a little nudge in one direction or another. Okay, the next step is, now this is getting more into like the structure of a business day, focusing on your top 3 priorities for this week. And again, we invite you to tune into your heart rather than your mind and ask the question, what will move my career and my personal life forward the most? And then you're going to come up with 3 priorities for this week. So go ahead and take a moment and write that down now. All right. So hopefully you have your top 3 priorities. And Anne just had a question. What is the Soul Planner? Yes, the Soul Planner is this book that we are using to write in. It's an annual planner. So it has the weekly planning guide that we've just been going through for every week of the year, plus monthly pages that have monthly visioning tools and a quote, and then also quarterly and annual. So it also has a process to take yourself through every quarter. It has this great thing where you get your word for the year with a list of words. So it has annual, quarterly, monthly, weekly. Oh, and there's a daily. So it's a really cool planner. And then every day you can list your top 3 tasks and focus on, in the evening, 3 things that you're grateful for. Suzanne is basically a planner ninja. I will say. She has tried every planner on the market and found this system to be the best. And then, so these are her gorgeous designs combined with my weekly planning process. And Darlene said, does it change annually? Yes, we had a 2019 one, and this is the 2021. So it has different covers, different graphics. And we did improve the content a little bit in 2020. So we streamlined it more. We simplified it based on the feedback that we got from people. So I think the structure is a little bit better in 2020. And yes. Okay, great. And Darlene, I love what you wrote. You said, I experienced my soul whisper as a slight tugging on the bottom of my proverbial skirt. It's a quote. That's great. That's a beautiful way to say it. And Sylvie, thank you for sharing your 3 things. Remain calm while homeschooling. I love it. You know what? That is such a better criteria to evaluate yourself on. Rather than, did my child complete all the lessons? And then if yes, no, win, fail, win, lose. It's like, did I remain calm? That's the criteria I want to evaluate myself on. I love that. Such a great way to think about it. Let go of perfectionism. Work on my photo album.
Ooh,
beautiful. I would invite you, Sylvie, if I think it's helpful to think of the positive rather than not doing the negative. So instead of letting go of perfectionism, if you were to let go of perfectionism, what would you have instead? And then see if you can come up with something a little more tangible and concrete, because at least for me, letting go of perfectionism is going to be a lifelong journey of many layers. And so for me to say it's like a priority for the week, how do I even know that I've done that? So I would invite you to think of the positive aspect. If you let go of perfectionism, what will you have instead? So maybe that's cultivating self-acceptance or self-compassion, or giving myself permission to do less, or to, you know, make a fool of myself, or to not shower, whatever. And then see if there's, if you really tune, if you get still and quiet and you tune into your heart, what is the tangible and concrete way that you want to let go of that this week? So maybe it's, I'm not going to clean my house, or maybe there's like a tangible action or inaction when it comes to letting go of perfectionism that you want to write as a priority. So for me, like with my own perfectionism, it's been really hard to not have my daughter finish all her homeschool every day. And but I've been allowing that to happen, even though it's uncomfortable. All right, thank you for sharing. Yes, Deborah said journal in order to hear the whispers. I love that. Okay, and now there's there's two last steps really. The second to last one is feed your soul. So what are 3 ways I can feed my soul this week? And we've gotten questions in the past where people have said, well, how is feed your soul different from self-care? That's a common question we get. And what Suzanne and I have said is sometimes it ends up being the same thing. You know, like for me, a hike in the redwood trees is an act of self-care and it feeds my soul. But sometimes the self-care acts are a little more relaxing, and this feed your soul could be a little more active. So the example that Suzanne likes to give is going to museums. Feeds her soul.
Right. Yeah. It's something that kind of is just like you get so excited about, as opposed that you really have to do it. You want to do it. You just feel that impulse, as opposed to maybe self-care is something kind of like calming you down. I mean, that's for me how I kind of decipher.
Yes. And the other thing that we've shared, you know, to think about it, the feed your soul category, it can often have to do with creativity.
Yeah.
Whereas the self-care doesn't necessarily. So feed your soul, it might be like listening to, like dancing to really good music, or painting something, or some creative act also can often be the thing that feeds your soul. So take a moment and just think of, what are 3 ways I can feed my soul this week? And go ahead and write them down. And then typically, the next step we recommend is reviewing your yearly goals, quarterly goals, monthly goals. And we're not going to do that today, but that is in the Soul Planner. It's part of the process. And then the other thing we do is you can chunk down those top 3 priorities for the week. You want to chunk them down to daily actions. And so let's just, for today, maybe just write down the 3 things you want to make sure that you do today. So what are the 3 actions that you want to make sure you take today? And then if you do those 3 things, it's been a huge success as a day. All right, everyone. Well, we said we were going to try to end around 11:30 today, so we're shortening some of these calls. So just take a moment and appreciate yourselves. You just completed the weekly planning in a very in-depth way. So this was way more in-depth than when you do it on your own, because we really wanted to kind of do this as a group and really deepen in with the guided visualization. And so it was a lot longer than it will be when you do it on your own. But hopefully this gave you a sense for what this is like. And now what I invite you to do is just notice. Notice how your day flows and how your week flows now that you've kind of put some of this structure in place. And notice how you feel about the things that you're accomplishing. Do you feel better about yourself? Do you feel better about how your day is going? Because for me, I know that whenever I do this process, I always feel better. Suzanne, what else do you want to share as we wrap things up? Oh wait, you're on mute, sorry. I think I muted you because you're typing.
Oh,
there you go.
Yeah, I think if you can do this consistently, then I think you'll start to experience momentum. And it's not even about getting things done. It's tuning in, the momentum of tuning into what really lights you up.
I want to write that down. Yes.
That's a muscle to practice and flex.
I love it. I'm writing that down in my notes in the back of my soul planner. Maybe it'll be one of my inspiring quotes for next week. All right, if anyone wants to share what this was like for you as we wrap up, what did you notice or experience now that you've completed the weekly planning guide? How do you feel about your day, your week coming up, the rest of your week? Or you can also type in the comments. Oh, thank you, Vanessa. Enthusiast. Merci beaucoup. Looking forward to it, Linda said. Yes. I feel more in control of my nervous system. Oh, really cool, Deborah. Lisa said, I feel like I've done something really valuable to anchor me in this time of uncertainty. Yay!
Oh, that's
what we were hoping for.
Anchor. That's what
yes.
we got.
This is like such a great anchor. And so I recommend you do it every week, you know, and we'll send out a link to the PDF. You don't feel like you have to buy the book. There's a version you can download and print yourself as well. Oh, that's so sweet. Quadwo, you got a shout out. And a special thank you to Quadwo, who I think is our only male participant. Yeah, thank you for hanging with the ladies. We might have more male. I don't know. I haven't looked at all the names. There's some who we don't see a face, but I love it. Darlene said, I feel giddy for the day. Beautiful. Excellent. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. So in terms of these weekly Bringing Calm to COVID gatherings, this was maybe going to be the last one because I've just been feeling into if this is going to continue or not. And then I just heard back from Gary Zukav's assistant. He has been on Oprah several times and wrote this amazing book called The Seed of the Soul. And there's a chance that he's going to be joining us maybe next week. So I'm kind of surrendering the flow of these gatherings to see what wants to happen. And if we get some incredible, famous thought leaders and wisdom teachers who say yes in the coming weeks, I'm going to continue them. And if we don't, we're just going to pause them for a while. So I don't really know right now is the answer. I'm being in the flow of COVID. And so we will let you know via email if we're going to be having this call next week or not. If we do, please join us. And if not, you can still do this process on your own. Please don't stop, Deborah said. Oh, well, I thank you. I appreciate it.
Vanessa, you're embodying the April quote where the Tao is not about grasping, but allowing like water.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just flowing. I'm creating structure, but I'm flowing. All right. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining us. We're sending you all so much love. And I just want to see what Lou said here. I'm a former new MBA grad. I've been using a planning guide from there and it's been really helpful, but the ones today were so helpful to use in the current circumstances. Thank you for everything. Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for joining us, Lou, and congrats on your recent MBA. I'm glad you found this tool. It's really helpful. All right, everyone, have a wonderful day, playing out, living out all the segments that you just intended. And please share with us when we send out the email. You can reply, like, how did your day go once you did the segment intending? Send me an email or a note. Me and Suzanne would love to hear from you. We love getting feedback on the weekly planning guide and on the soul planner. And we'll send out a link with the recording, the planner, all the tools you need so that you can keep the momentum going and feel like you have some structure in the chaos going forward. All right, bye everyone.
Bye.
Have a wonderful day.
You too.